Hey everyone, it's Richard Metalfan here, bringing you guys an old school album review. And today we're going to be talking about this album's 10th anniversary, and it's from one of my favorite bands of all time. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be talking about The Hunter by Mastodon, the band's fifth album released on September 27th, 2011 through Reprise Records. Now, I don't really need to go into detail about Mastodon. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of them already. A progressive rock metal band from Atlanta, Georgia, my home state. Been around since 1999, 2000, and I pretty much dig everything they've done. I know their first couple albums, they were more just heavier, had less clean vocals, more harsher vocals, but it wasn't until Blood Mountain where they started incorporating more clean singing, and then this album follows up their previous album, Crack the Sky, which, in my opinion, is probably my favorite Dawn album, and I got to see them play it a couple years ago, go in full. But yeah, and that album was really great. And to follow up with Crack the Sky, which was a really great album, but then this, I think, kind of is almost in a little bit of vein. It has some like very progressive stuff, very ambient, sort of like atmospheric vibes, and then also this album compared to Crack the Sky, it sounds almost kind of like mostly kind of commercial sounding. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just I don't know. It's just the vibe I get. It kind of sounds more just mainstream in a way. Like they kind of had that mainstream success starting with Blood Mountain, but I just think it kind of sounds more mainstreamy, if you know. But it's still pretty good. Production wise, it's pretty good. Produced by Mike Elizondo, really great producer. Let's just talk about like the vocals from Troy Sanders. Like you could definitely tell his voice. Like the three singers, like him, Brent Hines, the guitarist, and Bron Daler, the drummer, both have like distinct voices. The guitar tone on this album and work is tight from Brent Hines and Bill Kelleher. Come up with some really great riffs. The bass on this album, I just wish was a little bit audible. You could barely hear it from Troy. And drumming wise, Bron Daler, like he does some sick fills, like kind of does a drinking game, like take a shot every time Daler does like a drum fill. I probably would get alcohol poisoning. So yeah, it makes you curious, like how the hell does he sing and play drums? That's just insane. So without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now starting things off is Black Tongue, which opens up with some really great killer riffs that just managed to hit that mark of just being both heavy and technical at the same time. And just no pretension, no long interludes or intros, just heavy riffage. And the band just fires really on all cylinders, hitting marks that you just wouldn't expect them to. Um, Moving on to the next song on the album, which is called Curl of the Burl. Sorry, it's just I believe the first single released from this album. And I feel like the band does a lot with these songs, but I feel like it kind of goes back in time a little bit. It has a very generic feel. The riffs here are pretty sludgy, I'll give them that. And the vocals kind of sound from Troy kind of sound a little bit like Ozzy a bit. And I'd say, in my opinion, it's the catchy song on the album. But then a lot of times the bands go into like the spacey bridge mode, I get bored. But I feel like in here it's very well placed and it doesn't overstay its welcome by any means. Next song on the album is called Blasteroid. Now, I could see just how much of a rocking song this is. The intro riff just sounds very magical, and the clean vocals just really go well with the verses. And the chorus just brings back just really great memories of like the old school sludge, and then screaming at the top of your lungs. And Brett just takes it away nicely. And the song is short, but it just at the same time it's just sweet and just right to the point. And probably one of the best songs that this album has to offer. Stargasms up next. Now this song, funny enough by the title, kind of has like a shoegazy kind of feel at first, and the track evolves into something entirely different from with sort of like eerie kind of like guitar sounds and really great vocal melodies, acting like another instrument in a way. Um, and then we get to another interesting song on here, which is called Octopus Has No Friends, and which is a weird song title, but this song starts off with a very banjo-y kind of bluegrass just technique, then led by some heavy like use of like hammer-ons and pull-offs, and it's become synonymous that Mastodon just goes right into their style again. It has a great vocal delivery, and there's like a humor here despite like the somber like chorus of I'm on my way back home, with coupled with some great layers of minimal instrumentation. All the heavy liftings up next. Now it has a pitch and roll forward motion, just has some great drumming from Braun, coupled with some more direct yet brutal riffing. Kind of reminds me of something from like the debut Remission, and it's just a fucking good song. Then we move on to the title track of the album, which is called The Hunter. And it's just, in my opinion, I feel like can be seen as like the centerpiece of their showing sort of like more diversity, and has a very great heart-wrenching anthem than what we're expected. And it completely changes like the tone and whole vibe of the album from this point till the end of the album, which gives the next couple tracks more of a kind of like a mid-paced feel. Drying Bone Valley is a seamless transition, kind of like going from the title track to Drying Bone Valley. It's kind of unexpected, kind of like an Ebo intro, which kind of makes way some thrashy kind of like pout riffage, and then some really great wah wah heavy solo, and it kind of sounds like something from Leviathan. Then it has some great vocal range once again, and just showcases like a mix of like previous albums, like various musical elements. Thickening. Now, this is as thick as sludgy as the intro is, as much layered acoustic tracks and a low and a mixed mandolin refrain. Kind of reminds you of something from like Joseph Merrick, well, with vocals. Creature Lives has another good example of sort of like the hypnotic, sort of like brain stirring side of Mastodon that we don't get enough of from Crack the Sky, and it has like some of the best like seizure inducing intro to any of Mastodon songs. It's just I don't know, it's just also interesting that it breaks into sort of like a small interlude with like mellow guitars and bass, and it was actually the first time you actually hear the bass a little bit. Spectralite. Now, this song actually has a guest appearance from Scott Kelly of Neurosis, who actually did some guest appearances from Mastodon and other albums. Just like, I don't know, it just sounds something from Leviathan again. Has some really great riffs and some also kind of like harsher vocals that just sound just really sick. And I just think it's another face melter. Bedazzled Fingernails now starts off with a really good synth and almost kind of like robotic vocals in the chorus, which gives sort of like an epic feeling to it rather than just sounding like a B-side from Crack the Sky. And then we get to The Sparrow, which closes out the album. In my opinion, is probably the most nostalgic track of the album, not in itself, but of course, but is in fact like every Mastodon has the end of it. It is the most mellow and intriguing song of the album, and this is pretty much also the longest song on here. It's 13 minutes of instrumental masterpiece, but this where it's not as a 13-minute, but it's a pretty good way to end this album. Now I have the special edition right here, and it also has two bonus tracks which are called The Ruiner and Deathbound. Now the Ruiner and Deathbound are pretty go hand in hand with each other. I mean, it doesn't like take away from the album or add anything, but it's just pretty good tracks to have. So overall, The Hunter is a pretty good album. So if I were to give this album a score, I'm going to give the album a solid 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of The Hunter, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the album, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.